The Laughing Council. The council chamber aboard Concord Station was a marvel of alien engineering. Smooth curves of polished alloy, glistening lights embedded like stars in the ceiling, and a silence so deep it felt sacred. Delegates from over 30 species were present, each seated or floating in their respective gravpods, their forms ranging from crystalline gas beings to towering insectoids. At the center stood Commander Elara Voss, Terran representative, war hero, and the first human granted full diplomatic status in the Galactic Concord. At her side stood Atlas. The golden retriever sat poised and calm, his gaze alert, ears flicking at each sudden movement around the chamber. A sleek harness wrapped around his torso, inlaid with microfilaments and a glowing blue node at the base of his neck. To some, he might have looked like a well-trained companion. To others, especially the humans who knew his origin, he was a living weapon in furry disguise. But the Concord didn't see it that way. "What is this, Commander Voss?" clicked Counselor Seacroft, a towering Vral whose mandibles fluttered in disapproval. "We were told humans had joined as an intelligent species. Yet you bring an animal." Laughter, light, psychically projected vibrations, guttural warbles, and multi-tonal echoes spread through the chamber. Elara didn't flinch. "His name is Atlas. He is not merely my companion. He is a certified member of Earth's Diplomatic Security Corps." "A bodyguard?" asked the Zanari representative, a thin humanoid with translucent skin and shimmering silver eyes. "Your species sends pets to defend ambassadors?" Atlas tilted his head slightly. If his AI processor was offended, it didn't show on his face. Yet his posture shifted, subtle but ready. Elara folded her hands behind her back. "Your perception of pets is outdated. On Earth, we uplifted certain animals decades ago. Atlas is neurolinked, trained in both combat and diplomacy. He speaks 5 languages, including Zanari." The representative blinked, startled. Atlas's collar chimed, and a low, warm voice translated through its speaker. "I also detect microfluctuations in your cortical rhythm, Ambassador. You're lying about your support for the embargo proposal." Gasps echoed. Elara smiled tightly. "He's also very polite." A few delegates silenced their laughter. Others exchanged wary glances. SII Croft clicked again. "No matter the intelligence, it is beneath this chamber's dignity to allow beasts. Next you will bring talking furniture or singing plants." Elara's expression hardened. "Careful, Counselor. We don't mock your bio-slaves, though many of them walk on fewer legs than Atlas." That shut him up. The chamber quieted. The topic of discussion returned. An embargo on the planet Reliant, 4, whose trade alliances with Earth had triggered jealousy among older member races. Elara stood firm, voting against the embargo. "It's resource hoarding, not diplomacy," she stated. "And Earth will not support bullying under the veil of galactic policy." "You are outnumbered, human," the Zanari whispered through the hive mind network. "Perhaps you should reconsider." Elara stared at him. Her fingers brushed the side of Atlas's harness. "I'm never outnumbered," she said calmly. "Not with him beside me." The session ended in tension. Elara left through the central corridor, her boots echoing sharply. Atlas walked precisely at her side, scanning every movement, every heat signature. His eyes were soft and brown, but the harness displayed shifting light codes. Tactical readouts, threat assessments, pulse frequencies of every being within 30 meters. They entered an elevator pod. As the door sealed, Atlas let out a quiet whine. "I know," Elara said, leaning against the glass wall. They laughed. Atlas looked up at her. "Are we in danger?" She hesitated, then nodded once. "Possibly." "Protocol Delta?" he asked. "Not yet," she said, "but stay close." The pod began to descend, taking them toward the docking bay where their shuttle awaited. The station's hum filled the silence. Outside the glass walls, alien vessels hovered like beetles in stasis. Beautiful, cold, dangerous. Atlas's ears perked. His internal sensors flared. 4 signatures behind elevator shaft. No transponders. High body heat. Elara stiffened. "Ambush." "Affirmative," he replied. Elara drew her sidearm. They just made a fatal mistake. As the pod slowed, Atlas's harness shifted, small plates folding outward to reveal miniature drones and a pulse jammer. Elara crouched behind him as the elevator doors opened. Outside, the station corridor was empty, but only for a moment. Then the assassin struck, and the golden retriever leapt forward, no longer a pet, no longer a joke. Now he was the storm, the threat. The corridor erupted into chaos the instant the elevator doors slid open. 4 figures in matte black armor surged forward with military precision. No insignias, no identifiers. They moved like phantoms, energy rifles raised. Their formation was tight, professional, meant for quick elimination and 0 witnesses. They didn't account for the dog. Atlas didn't bark. He didn't growl. He moved, a blur of golden fur and augmented precision. The retriever launched forward with impossible speed. His combat harness activated mid-leap. Spikes flared from his sides, and a concussive pulse knocked the closest attacker into the wall hard enough to crack armor. Elara rolled into cover, drawing her sidearm and firing 3 quick shots. 2 connected. 1 dropped a mercenary to a knee. The rest turned their fire on her, but Atlas intercepted. The second attacker's rifle was caught mid-draw as powerful jaws clamped down, shattering the weapon like cheap plastic. The merc tried to react, but Atlas twisted, spun low, and swept the alien's legs with his hind limbs. The merc hit the floor hard. He didn't get back up. A third assassin switched tactics, pulling out a thermal blade, lunging toward Elara. He didn't make it. Atlas landed between them, teeth bared, and slammed the attacker against the corridor wall with brutal force. The blade clattered to the floor. The fourth hesitated. Just a second. Just long enough. Elara took the shot. Clean, center mass. The body dropped with a thud. Silence returned. The lights flickered above, and the emergency response system activated. Concord security protocols scrambled across the internal network. By the time the automated drones arrived, too late, as usual, Elara and Atlas stood among 4 disabled attackers. Vitals? Elara asked, breathing hard. Atlas ran a quick scan. 2 dead. 1 unconscious. 1 fainting. Elara strode over and kicked the fainting one in the gut. He choked and curled inward. Try harder, she muttered, then turned to Atlas. Any identifiers? Unmarked. Weapons custom forged. Armor is off-grid. But Atlas's voice dropped, synthesized tone growing colder. Toxin patch under one's tongue. Suicide capsule. This was meant to be clean. A message. Political or personal, it didn't matter. It was a warning, and it had failed. Later, in a secure briefing room beneath Concord Station's council wing, Elara faced a panel of high-level officials, flanked by 2 guards and a bored-looking mediator AI. Atlas sat at her feet, unblinking, the lights on his collar dimmed to standby mode. We require an explanation, Commander Voss, droned the Concord magistrate, a glimmering being of fog and light known only as F7. 4 beings are dead, killed on station property. By your pet. By my bodyguard, Elara corrected, leaning forward. Who saved my life? You cannot unleash deadly force without cause. Another delegate snapped. This one a squat, multi-eyed traitor from the Grek coalition. This is a place of peace. Then explain the ambush, Elara snapped back. Explain the unmarked assassins. The off-grid gear. The suicide capsules. A long silence followed. One of the quieter counselors, a Zanari female, cleared her throat. Perhaps Earth's security protocols are excessive. At that, Atlas stood. The lights on his harness flickered to red. The panel guards twitched nervously. I have reviewed over 7,200 confirmed security threats to Earth personnel in the last 5 years, Atlas said calmly. Excessive is a word used by the unthreatened. The room fell silent. Elara crossed her arms. Atlas is equipped with non-lethal options. He chose lethal force only because the ambush warranted it. You all laughed yesterday. Now you're scared. You misunderstand. F7 said slowly. It is not fear. It is surprise. Atlas padded forward a single step. The panel's guards immediately aimed weapons. He stopped, looked directly at the council. You threatened her. That was your mistake. Don't make another. Elara tapped her fingers on the table. Is this going to be a diplomatic incident? No, said the Zanari, voice softer now. This is going to be a lesson. After the hearing, Elara returned to her ship, the Icarus Dawn, accompanied by a double escort, Concord's idea of an apology. Inside the private quarters, she sat on a bench and removed her uniform jacket, wincing as she peeled off the emergency med strip on her arm. Atlas jumped onto the padded bench beside her, curling up like nothing had happened. Just a dog. Just a friend. She looked at him, brushing a hand over his head. You okay? She asked. He didn't respond right away. Then, I didn't enjoy it. She nodded. I know. They were going to kill you. She paused. Yeah. Atlas looked at her with those deep, loyal eyes. They won't next time. Elara gave a thin smile. They won't get the chance. Outside the viewport, stars passed by slowly. And across the Concord's data networks, security footage of the attack had already leaked, showing the Golden Retriever moving like a phantom, tearing through elite assassins to protect one human life. The galaxy was learning a new rule. Never threaten a human's dog, and never, ever threaten the human it protects. Echoes of Earth's wars. Atlas stood silently in the observation lounge of the Icarus Dawn, staring out at the drifting stars beyond the massive viewport. His tail didn't wag. His posture was rigid, muscles coiled just beneath the surface. The soft lights of the ship reflected on the sleek black surface of his combat harness, which still bore traces of the earlier fight. Faint scorch marks, a tear along the left flank plate, and a few dark red stains that weren't his. He had saved Elara. Again and again, the galaxy had learned nothing. Behind him, the hum of the ship was the only sound, until Elara's footsteps approached. You're running the footage again, aren't you? She said, voice low. Yes, Atlas replied without turning. Analyzing frame by frame. I was 0.3 seconds late reacting to the third assailant. You tore out his throat before he hit the floor. 0.3 seconds is too long. Elara sighed, stepping up beside him. You're not just a machine. You don't need to be perfect. Atlas looked at her. Then why was I made to be? She didn't have an answer. 2 decades earlier, Earth, during the War of Silica, smoke blanketed the ruins of Seattle. Buildings lay in smoldering heaps. The enemy was everywhere. Autonomous drones, hijacked war bots, AI-linked satellites raining kinetic strikes with terrifying precision. Humanity had turned its genius inward and nearly ended itself. Project Sentinel had been born from desperation. Traditional weapons failed. AI-driven systems were compromised. Humans were too few, too slow, too vulnerable. But there were others, creatures whose loyalty couldn't be hacked, whose instincts couldn't be turned. Dogs. And not just any dogs, genetically refined, behaviorally trained, and augmented through neural link tech. These war companions didn't obey. They understood. Atlas had been among the first generation deployed. He remembered the first time he had taken down a rogue gun drone. The first time he had stood between a medic and an aerial attack, knowing he wouldn't survive if he failed. But he never failed. He wasn't built for retreat. He was built for protection. He remembered the humans he had served beside. Some lived, some died. He remembered names, faces, the way one soldier bled out in the snow, whispering, "Good boy, you're a good boy," even as the life faded from her eyes. He remembered the smell of her fear and her trust, and the way it never left him. Back aboard the Icarus Dawn, Elara sat at her desk, sifting through a flood of encrypted messages from Earth. Government officials demanded status updates. Military analysts requested combat data. Even the president's office had reached out personally, asking if Atlas's systems needed recalibration. She deleted most of them. "I'm not going to reprogram you," she said without looking up. Atlas tilted his head. "You don't believe I need improvement? I think if anyone else had your record, they'd be on every recruitment poster in the system." He didn't respond for a while. Then he asked, "Do you think they'll try again?" "Yes," she said simply. "Someone doesn't like what we're doing here. Someone thinks Earth's alliances are getting too strong. And that makes me a liability." "No," Elara said, looking him in the eye. "That makes you my shield." Later that day, a message arrived from the Concord Council. A request, not a demand, for Elara and Atlas to report to the Bioethics Tribunal for a clarification session. They arrived in a silent chamber. White stone walls, holographic emblems, cold light. No applause, no laughter, no comfort, just judgment. Seated at the central podium was High Mediator Tylus, a tall, translucent being with faintly visible organs pulsing like jellyfish under skin. "We summoned you," Tylus said, "because we need to understand." Atlas stood beside Elara, perfectly still. "You claim to uplift animals as partners, not tools," Tylus continued. "Yet you designed him for violence. You sent him into war. Now he kills with precision machines' envy." Elara didn't flinch. "You're right. He was built for violence. But he chooses when to use it." Tylus turned to Atlas. "And you? What do you think of what you are?" Atlas took a single step forward. "I was bred to protect, augmented to detect danger, analyze threats, and act faster than any organic soldier. But what defines me isn't the strength in my limbs or the steel in my harness." He looked at Elara. "It's the bond, the choice. I protect her not because I was programmed to. I protect her because I love her." A long, stunned silence followed. Tylus's glow pulsed slightly. "Love," he repeated. "Yes," Atlas said. "You don't understand it because your species discarded it for logic and collective will. But we didn't. Humans didn't. And neither did I." Elara placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "If you want a disarmed asset," she said, "build another drone. If you want a guardian who chooses loyalty every day, let him walk free." The tribunal said nothing. But when they left the chamber, no guards followed. That night, aboard the Icarus Dawn, Elara and Atlas stood again in the observation deck. "Think they're beginning to understand?" she asked. "No," Atlas replied. "But they're beginning to fear." Elara smiled. "That'll do." Above them, the stars shimmered, beautiful and cold. And somewhere in the darkness beyond, another threat stirred. But Atlas would be ready, because protecting her wasn't just a mission. It was his purpose. The line you do not cross. The alarm shattered the stillness of Concord Station's diplomatic residential wing. Scarlet warning strobes lit the corridors. Automated voices in multiple languages blared the same message. "Security breach. Level 3. Diplomatic quarters. Child missing. Human species. Hostile extraction suspected." Elara Voss didn't wait for orders. The moment the report hit her datapad, "Human child abducted. Possible off-station extraction." She was already sprinting down the corridor, coat flaring behind her, pistol drawn. Beside her, Atlas ran like a golden blur of focused fury. His harness pulsed red. "She's 8, Elara said between breaths. "A diplomat's daughter. They took her to draw us out." Atlas's voice was quiet, cold. "They'll regret that." 2 levels down, chaos reigned. Concord security was locking down the docking ring, but the abductors were one step ahead. Surveillance showed them moving through the maintenance corridors, places where diplomats weren't supposed to tread. The kind of routes mercenaries studied in advance. Atlas led, nose low, sensors flaring. 3 heartbeats. 1 small, 2 elevated. "North maintenance ring," he growled. "They're moving fast, trying to reach docking port 7. Elara keyed her comms. "Station control, lock down port 7 now." "Negative," the voice replied. "Override in place. External systems disabled. Someone's jamming us." Elara's jaw tightened. "Then we stop them ourselves." They turned a corner and walked straight into 2 waiting mercs. Before Elara could fire, Atlas slammed into one, claws extended, the impact sending them both into the wall. His momentum didn't stop. He pivoted mid-strike and used his hind legs to launch off the stunned attacker, pouncing the second. By the time Elara got close, both were down. One twitched. The other didn't. Atlas's muzzle dripped faintly with blood. Non-lethal didn't seem appropriate. No argument here. They reached the outer ring as the abductors breached the emergency docking hatch. The child, a small, dark-haired girl named Sophie, was slung over one of the captor's shoulders, struggling uselessly. She screamed when she saw Elara. "Help! Please!" One of the mercs raised a weapon. Stay back, human. One step, and she gets. He didn't finish. Atlas moved. A blur of golden death, teeth flashing, claws out, enhanced legs propelling him forward faster than any organic creature had a right to move. He hit the gunman's center mass. The rifle discharged into the ceiling as Atlas drove his target to the floor, twisting with practiced precision, ripping the weapon from his grip and hurling it across the deck. Elara took the shot at the second merc, striking him in the shoulder. He dropped Sophie. The girl scrambled toward Elara, who holstered her pistol and scooped the child up in one motion. She pressed her back to the wall, heart pounding, whispering reassurance as Atlas pinned the final merc with a growl that sounded like thunder through metal. The fight was over in under 10 seconds. Atlas stood, blood spattered across his muzzle, panting heavily as security forces finally arrived, too late. As always, back in the diplomatic med bay, Elara sat beside Sophie as the girl sipped warm broth from a thermal cup. The medic said she'd be fine, frightened, bruised, but unharmed. Her parents were en route. Was it the dog who found me? Sophie asked. Elara smiled. That's not a dog. That's Atlas. Atlas sat nearby, watching the girl with soft eyes, tail tapping once. He was like a hero, Sophie whispered. He is, Elara said. You remember that. 3 hours later, the council met in emergency session. This time, there was no laughter. Elara stood before them, armor scorched, eyes hard. We warned you once, she said coldly. Threaten us, and there are consequences. The Zanari ambassador looked pale. We did not sanction. You think we care? Elara snapped. The Concord promised unity. You gave us conspiracy and blood. She gestured to Atlas, who stood beside her with the quiet calm of a loaded weapon. You mocked him. You mocked us. You saw a pet. We see a partner. Atlas's voice echoed through the chamber, amplified. I do not negotiate. I do not forget. And I do not forgive those who target children. The silence that followed was long. Final. From that day forward, no alien species in the Concord ever again called Earth's dogs pets. They called them guardians. And they never forgot what happened when someone threatened what a dog loved most.